Welcome, everybody, to episode 2 of the DC Sports Report. Tonight is a Redskins-focused episode. With me, I have Nationals fan page, Redskins Central, Skin Scout for the first time, and Wiz Fever. Started with some recent news. D'Angelo Hall takes a pay cut. The 33-year-old veteran cornerback will be reducing his pay by around 50% for this upcoming season, from $4.25 million to $2.3 million. It's the last year of his 4-year contract he signed in 2014. There's also a $250,000 incentive if he were to make the Pro Bowl. I think this is a great decision by D'Angelo Hall. It's rare that a declining player like him, as far as athleticism, will take his value into his own hands instead of retiring and do what's best for the team. Really respect him for that, and I'm glad he did that. So with that news out of the way, let's get right into the podcast. We're going to begin with Skin Scout, and he'll tell us of anything that stuck out to him during OTAs and minicamp. So, Skin Scout, what do you got for us?
Yeah, I've heard Kirk Cousins and Terrell Pryor have already been building a rapport together. Cousins has oftentimes looked to Pryor in drills. Of course, Jordan Reed hasn't been there for OTAs, so that's part of the reason that he's been looking elsewhere. But it's good to see Cousins putting that trust in Pryor already. And of course, I just mentioned Reed wasn't at OTAs, but he was working with Chad Johnson in the meanwhile. And if you don't know who Chad Johnson is, you probably remember the name Chad Ochocinco. He's known for his incredible footwork, and Reed has great footwork. And if he has improved his footwork on top of what he already had, then opposing teams will have to start putting corners on him to defend him, which would be great for the wide receivers, especially Terrell Pryor with his size. The defense is definitely looking more aggressive. Of course, don't look too much into it as it's still OTAs, no pads, but it's a positive sign. And it looks like Minuski will try to put a lot of pressure, especially on QBs from different areas, bringing safeties down to blitz and corners, linebackers, etc. Junior Gillette obviously looked a little rusty, but you could see him getting his explosiveness back. He should be really, really exciting to watch this year if he can stay on the field. Martrell Spayot, Houston Bates, D'Angelo Hall, and rookies Fabian Maroon and Monte Nicholson were all rehabbing from injuries during OTAs. Now to minicamp. The defense got the better half of the offense these past 2 days. Many defensive backs had interceptions, pass breakups throughout practice the past 2 days. Will Compton was actually flying around practice, making a lot of plays. He looked very, very good. Little update on Doxson. Josh Doxson has been on a pitch count so far this offseason, so just to ease him in. Nothing to worry about. His Achilles is doing fine. He's been working with the second team, though, just still easing him in, while Pryor, Crowder, and Grant have been working with the first team. Josh Doxson should be fully healthy by the time training camp comes and should be a 100% go by July and August. A sleeper for the nose tackle position is Joey Mbu. He's had reps with the first team, and he's been big, strong, and light on his feet during these OTAs and minicamp practices. Will Compton, Mason Foster, and Zach Brown have all rotated with the first team. It'll be interesting to see who starts because Compton is the only one who has called plays before, so that gives him an edge. Even though Foster and Brown maybe be the better tandem, with Compton having the experience play calling, he definitely has the edge there. But they have had Mason Foster practicing with play calling so far in practice. There hasn't been any competition at left guard. Sean Laval has gotten all the first team reps, and Eric Kwanjo is still taking second team reps. And lastly, I reported a few weeks ago that Jones was absent from OTAs, and he was looking to get released or traded, and that officially became true today while Jones's agent politely asked for his client's release. But Gruden reportedly told Jones that he was fifth on the depth chart before OTAs and that he would have to work his way up. At rookie minicamp, Jones worked as the fourth back behind Kelly Thompson, P. Ryan, with Brown as the fifth. So I'd expect Jones's release sometime this next few week or so. It's just bound to happen. And that's pretty much everything going on in practice these past few weeks. The next few weeks we'll have a break until training camp.
Okay, thank you. That was a very detailed summary. We really appreciate it. As far as the defense goes, we're going to go to Nat's fan page for this next question. Defense, it looks top 10. It looks like it has the talent and the potential to be top 10, especially with the additions of Jonathan Allen and Zach Brown. And the run defense looks like it could be a lot better, but that is taken down a little bit with the loss of defensive tackle Chris Baker. Nat's fan page, what do you think the potential of this defense is this season? Top 10?
I'd like to say again, thank you for having me on this podcast. And with the question, I think if everyone plays to their potential, stays healthy, this could be a top 10 defense. I mean, I really like the hiring of especially Jim Tomsula as a D-line coach. When he was in San Francisco, they were the third-ranked defense. They were one of the reasons why they made it to the Super Bowl was their defense. And with him on board, he kind of brings a tough, hard-nosed, gritty style to our defense, which we kind of needed because I think we need motivation, heart. We need to play with all that to succeed. And I feel like Tomsula brings that. And with the hiring of Minuski, too, I like that. Internal in the organization. He's been here for a while. I like that hiring, too. And when you look at the players that we got, big improvement. Zach Brown, the middle linebacker, the linebacker from the Bills, Pro Bowl caliber linebacker. 149 tackles, 4 sacks, and two forced fumbles and an interception. I mean, highly talented player. I feel like he'll fit well in our system, and I feel like he'll be a great player in the future. And even though we got him on a 1-year deal, I feel like we will resign him after this year, depending on his play. But I like how the defense is looking. And then when you look at the draft, you got 2 Alabama players in the first 2 rounds. In terms of you got Jonathan Allen and Ryan Anderson, both from the best college team in football. I think they were the best 2 players available in those rounds, and I love what we did there. So, I mean, yeah, the defense is looking up. I mean, I'm excited for what we could do with this potent offense. I'm excited for the year we could have. So, yeah.
Same here. I'm really excited to see what the defense can do. Possibly even more excited than what the offense will be able to do.
Yeah.
Now, back to Skin Scout for this question. The coaching staff announced that Josh Norman will be shadowing the team's #1 receiver more often than not. Of course, last season, the infamous Pittsburgh game where Rashad Breeland was stuck on Antonio Brown and he got burned multiple times, and there were a lot of bashing towards the Redskins for not having their #1 cornerback, which they paid millions of dollars, cover the opposing team's #1 receiver. How will that? How will the Norman shadowing change the defense? How will Rashad Breeland's supposed improvements help the defense? And how will the DJ Swearinger sign at safety impact the defense? Skin Scout, what do you got?
Yeah, as you mentioned, the Redskins didn't shadow Josh Norman with the #1 receivers last season at the beginning, and I think it hurt their pass defense. But once Norman started shadowing the defense, they did improve. I think the same will happen in 2017, but I don't think it really relies on Norman. I'm actually going to answer this with a little bit different answer. I think the two biggest spots will actually be the slot corner and strong safety will be really up to the pass defense. If Kendall Fuller is able to improve, which I heard he has been playing very well so far, then it will be huge for the Redskins defense. The NFC East have very good slot receivers and Beasley, and now Ryan Switzer with the Cowboys, Jordan Matthews with the Eagles, and Sterling Shepard with the Giants. So slot CB will definitely be key. It'll also be interesting to see how Sua Cravens plays at strong safety. He hasn't played safety since freshman year of college, and many question whether or not he has the speed to play the safety position. Bashad Breeland, he is entering a contract year, and I think that will motivate him a lot. I'm not worrying about him as much as others are. I feel like Breeland will have a good bounce back season this year. And finally, DJ Swearinger was one of my favorite prospects in the 2013 draft. He had his struggles early in his career, but he might have found his home at free safety, a position he has only played for 1 year, and he played well at that position with the Cardinals in a limited role. I've heard Swearinger is flying around the field at practice, and he might be the best center fielder the Redskins have had in a long time. So the pass defense should definitely improve.
Okay, all that sounds really good. Interesting tidbit about Bashad Breeland. When he was in the slot last season, he actually allowed the lowest quarterback rating against him in all of football. So he was one of the best slot cornerbacks in all of football last season. If the coaching staff can utilize him effectively this upcoming season, there's a lot of potential there, especially with Fuller, as you mentioned, coming up behind him and improving. Now,
if I may,
yeah.
I do think fans are paying more attention to Breeland at the beginning of the season in his form against Antonio Brown and aren't giving him credit for how he improved
exactly
in the back half in the season.
He quietly had a very good season.
Yes, he did.
Next up, Wiz Fever, we'll be going to you for this one, is Ryan Anderson, the Redskins' second-round pick out of Alabama linebacker. He markets himself as he's not a combine guy, as he had very low marks at the combine, but as a football guy, a guy that's going to give you grit, effort over anything else. How will that type of game translate to the NFL? How will he impact the defense?
I think it'll translate pretty well. I mean, he didn't have a great combine, but he says he's a football player. He says, I train hard, I work hard, but I ain't no workout warrior. I don't care about broad jumps and long jumps. I ran at the combine, and I'm fast enough to set the edge. Nobody beat me on the edge. I can run with tight ends. I can cover running backs. Football is football. I'm a football player. All that other stuff, you can break it down however you want. It has nothing to do with football. But a lot of linebacker coaches in the NFL said that, I mean, just don't look at the combine scores and watch the tape. And if you watch his tape, it's amazing. He had 19 tackles for loss last season with Alabama and 9 sacks. And he's playing against most SEC teams, and that's definitely the best conference in college football. He ran a 4.78 at the combine, but he said he's fast enough to beat the edge. So as an outside linebacker, I think he'll do pretty well, and I think he'll make this defense a lot better. That's all I have to say right now. If anybody else wants to comment on that, I'd be happy.
Yeah, does anyone else have anything to say about Ryan Anderson, or should we move on?
I got one thing to say. I watched this tape, and like you were saying, Fever, he gets off the edge very well. I think combine, although it can show some good things, I don't think it shows everything. I mean, if he's a football player like he says he is, then I'm happy about that. And I've seen his tape. I've seen all that. He looks like a solid, starting, Pro Bowl caliber player. But yeah, something to be excited about for sure.
Yeah,
For
and
sure.
I'm looking forward to the quarterbacks on the schedule to meet him.
Yeah.
Pretty fun.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Next topic, the Kirk Cousins contract extension. We've heard more than enough about it. It's a tired topic at this point. But the prospect remains that because of one other player, he could become the highest paid player in the NFL if the Redskins aren't able to sign him in July by the deadline. Now he's playing this season under the franchise tag. If that's left to be, and the Redskins don't sign him to a long-term deal, Derek Carr, the Oakland Raiders quarterback, is set to get just as similar as a deal to Cousins, $24 million a year, and that's very high for him. He's only earning $1.153 million in 2017. Derek Carr is, as he's still on that rookie deal, but Cousins is already at $24 million this year under the salary tag. So you can imagine how much more that long-term contract is going to take, and he could become the highest paid player in the NFL. Now, whether that is worth it, you think the money that we're giving out, or we lose our franchise quarterback. It's something that this front office is really going to have to take a hard look at. And I don't really blame them for taking as much time as they possibly can to evaluate this guy, because if they want to lock him down, it's going to cost more money than any other player in the NFL, most likely. So it is a decision that should rightfully take as much time as it's taking. And I think people are bashing them too much for taking as much time as they are with this, because if they're going to sign him, they're going to sign him. It doesn't really matter how much time it takes them to do. Now, moving on to the next one, Redskins Central. We'll go to you for this one. Now, with the new signing of Terrell Pryor and him coming into the receiver group that is very tall, very physical, how much will this red zone offense that was just meh last season, how much will that improve with this new height and athleticism that we've got in this group?
I think it's going to get a lot better, obviously, just having height like we added in Pryor, and then getting Dotson back hopefully for the whole year. Those guys are both 6'4". Then obviously Jordan Reed is 6'2". I think his height almost goes unnoticed because he's so athletic. But, I don't really know if it's all on the height with those guys. A lot of our red zone bad production was coming from Kirk Cousins. His red zone stats, he had 4 interceptions, 2 inside the 10, 2 in the 20. And then his rate in the red zone was 84.6. And his overall rate last year was 97.8. So we see the huge drop-off there between the two. And then, I just think the Redskins, with their new offensive coordinator, he won't be calling the plays. It will be Jay Gruden calling the plays. So I think we're just going to see a kind of change in how we're going to look in the red zone, maybe more runs, maybe more fades. We weren't really able to do that last year with no height. So I think overall our red zone production is going to go up. It really can't get much lower. And we know that Kirk Cousins can come out and throw the ball where you need it to go. And he's got some big targets now. So I think that it will get a lot better.
Got to agree with the points you made there. And something else that will help the red zone offense is these new running backs that we have. Samaje Perine, as I like to pronounce it, the Redskins' third-round draft pick. You have to think that the way he runs, very physical, very hard-nosed, reminds me in some ways of Adrian Peterson. Obviously not comparing to Adrian Peterson, but the way he runs when he's down in the trenches trying to get past the line of scrimmage reminds me in a way of him. And he just doesn't go down. He's not very shifty back. He's going to run north-south. So that should be something that will definitely improve the run game in the red zone. And if the run game is improved, obviously that opens up the pass game. So Nat's fan page, what do you think of the new Redskins running back, and how will he be competing with the current starter, Rob Kelly? And what are the differences in their running styles?
Well, this is a very tough decision if I'm Jay Gruden of who to start. With going into the beginning of the year, I'd probably rock with Kelly, considering he's experienced with the NFL. He's had success with the Redskins, and I feel like right now he's just a better option. However, when you look at the two players, you got Samaje Perine, who in his freshman year at Oklahoma, he rushed for 1,700 yards and 21 touchdowns. Very, very solid, very good. And in 2016, I believe he had one game where he rushed for over 500 rushing yards in one game, which is amazing. So I feel like the difference between Rob Kelly and Samaje Perine, I guess is how we're going to pronounce it, the difference is I feel like Rob Kelly is kind of a bigger back right now, stronger. Remember that run versus the Packers kind of signified his running style, running through players, no regard, fighting to get to the end zone, even though it came up a little short. I feel like they're very similar in ways, but I feel like right now Robert Kelly is stronger, and I feel like he'll get the starting role to begin with the year. But as the year progresses on, I feel like it'll get closer and closer, and Purine could eventually overtake that and show his rookie strengths. I mean, like they're both very similar. As you said, DC. Samaje Perine, he kind of reminds me of Adrian Peterson too. I'm not comparing him, but yeah, same running style. He's just all-around player. I'm excited for what this running game can do with the already improved offensive line under Bill Callahan. I think it's a very underrated offensive line. So I feel already with this passing core and the defense we previously talked about, this rushing team is not intended to be overlooked. So, yeah, that's what I have to say. If anyone wants to chime in, yeah.
Yeah, I'll say quick something that we just saw. I forget exactly who the report was by, but we heard that they're gonna ride the hot hand, and that's something I'm really looking forward to because we have 3 really good running backs that I think most people are willing to overlook. Obviously, the rookie Perine, no one knows what he's gonna do, but Rob Kelly, a guy I loved to watch last year, never went down, never wanted to go down behind the line. And then Thompson, who's a guy who can come out and have 500 yards rushing and 600 yards receiving. So I think people are going to forget even more about Thompson, who I think can definitely be more than just a third down running back. So overall, I'm just really looking forward what all 3 guys can do to help this team. And I think this running game is going to be much different. Obviously, hopefully no suspension for Trent Williams this year. That really hurt our running game, despite the guy who came in and helped a lot. But I'm just overall really looking forward to what this running game can do this year.
One thing I'd like to add is I think the game you were referring to was the game he played against Kansas. He ran for 34 times and set NCAA record for 427 yards in one game.
That's amazing.
Yes. The one thing that's a little tricky about this conversation right now is it's still very early. They're not even in pads yet, so we still have a long way to go. But if in my decision, in my opinion, I think they will. I think they will ride the hot hand, but I think they will go with Kelly and use P. Ryan in the red zone offense. Use him as a bruiser down there to relieve Kelly, get him a little breath, and get P. Ryan some touches down in the red zone.
Yeah. With the way that Kelly played down the stretch last season, you can't not start him to start this year. It's in favor of a rookie. Doesn't make much sense, no matter how good the rookie is. So we're running along here, so we're going to skip straight to our record predictions for the season, and one bold prediction rather for the offense and the defense. One player on either side, a bold prediction about some stats that they may put up. So we're going to start first with Nat's fan page. What's your record prediction, and what are your bold stat predictions for this upcoming season?
My record prediction for the Redskins in 2017 is for them to go 10-6. On the defensive side, I predict Josh Dorman to finish with 7 interceptions on the year, and the reason why I say that is because in that Bengals game in London, there were so many interceptions that he dropped, and many other games he dropped a lot of interceptions. So I have a feeling if he caught half of the balls he dropped, he would have had like 5 to 7 interceptions, and he was playing great all season. He said, I remember in a quote, he said that was easily the best year of his career. So I feel like he's going to have even a better year this year. On the offensive side, I think that it's possible for Rob Kelly, if he gets a starting role through the year, if he gets all 16 games starting, that he could finish with 1,000 rushing yards. And I'm going to go with maybe like 10 plus touchdowns, considering Purine might get most of the touches in their red zone. But yeah, those are my, I guess, 2, one offense, one defense predictions, and the season prediction for the Redskins this year.
Okay, sounds good. Redskins Central, what are your predictions?
I have the Redskins finishing 10-6. They make the playoffs. However, they don't win the division. I think the Giants have an opportunity to be really good this year. And then my offensive bold prediction is including a few players. I have Pryor, Jordan Reed, and Jameson Crowder all going for over 1,000 yards. I think that's definitely possible with Kirk Cousins playing well at quarterback. Obviously, we saw how many yards he threw for last year. Crowder was a guy last year who kind of flew under the radar. He had 7 touchdowns. I think it was right around 800 yards, maybe a little less. And, he really, really showed what he can do with, I think, some missed opportunities for him. There were some times where I think Kirk Cousins just missed him. And, I think that'll change this year. For my defense bold prediction, I have Ryan Kerrigan leading the league in sacks. No specific number, just saying that he really gets back there and shows the quarterback who he is and how hard he can hit him.
Okay, I like those predictions. Wiz Fever, what do you got for your record prediction and your bold predictions? You there, Wiz Fever? I guess not. I guess we'll come back to you later. Skin Scout, we'll go to you next. What are your predictions?
I think the Redskins are a boom or bust team. They built their team a little bit like a basketball team this season. They have all new wide receivers, pretty much all new running, not all new running backs, but a little bit different than last season. Defensive line is all remade. Linebackers are a little bit different, and safety positions are all different. So it'll depend on how they mesh, how early they can get it working all together. But if they boom, I think they could go 10-6 and make the playoffs. If they bust, maybe 5-11 for the record prediction. And for the bold prediction, I have one for offense, one for defense. One is kind of focused around the wide receivers. I believe Jamison Crowder leads the team in receiving yards. Maurice Harris becomes the team's 4th receiver in front of Brian Quick and Ryan Grant. And I think Ryan Grant has a significant role in the offense, even though he might be behind Maurice Harris. He isn't currently, but if Maurice Harris does take over that 4th spot, I still think Ryan Grant has a significant role. I think one thing that a lot of people miss is that Ryan Grant's a great run blocker. That's pretty much whenever he's in the game, they're going to run it. And for my defensive prediction, bold prediction, I have Junior Gillette being in contention for comeback player of the year.
Okay, that's a very bold prediction. I like them. That'd be great if all that happened. Now we got Wiz Fever back here. Let's go to you for your predictions.
All right, I think we're going to go 11-5. I think we'll actually win 1 or 2 of the games. We're playing the Raiders, Seahawks, Cowboys, or Chiefs, and I just think we have a lot more talent this year. Actually, since we lost Deshaun, Garcon, and Baker, I think we actually got more talent back. And for my bold prediction for the offense, I think Robert Kelly, Samaje Perine will both have over 900-plus yards because of the hot hand thing. I think one back will dominate a game, and then another back will dominate the other game, something like that. And then I also think Chris Thompson will have well over 800 yards combined receiving and rushing. So that's for my offense. For my defense, I think that Zach Brown will actually be the defensive player of the year. He's probably hungry because he just barely made the Pro Bowl last year just because someone got injured. And he actually said before the season that that's his goal, to be the defensive player of the year. It's probably a lot of people's goals, but I actually think he can do it.
All right, I like it.
I'd like to add one more thing
Sure.
for the prediction for the season. I forgot to put playoffs or not. I feel like I think it was what Central was saying. I feel like the Giants could possibly win the division. I feel like we go in the wild card, and I feel like the Cowboys get hit with the injury bug, and they slip to 3rd. So I feel like we go to the wild card, and I think we get out of there. And I'm not sure about the next couple of rounds because I feel like we're just not as experienced, but we're getting there. We're young, but we're getting to that point where in a couple of years, I feel like we could be a serious contender. So yeah, that's what I was saying.
Okay, yeah, definitely. I'm sure we'd all like to see that happen. As far as my bowl predictions, I'd say we go 10-6. And for the stats, these are two guys that I loved coming out of college. And these are very unlikely, but more of things that I'd like to see happen. I say Josh Doxson with the new role he's playing, the Z wide receiver, opposite side of the number one wide receiver. I think he's got a lot of potential. He's an all-around guy. 1,000 yards on the season. I'd really like to see that happen. I think the partnership with Cousins and the way he runs his routes, I think it's possible. More like to see it happen. On the defensive side, Kendall Fuller, depending on how Bashaud Breeland plays and what role the Redskins put him in on the defensive side of the ball, I say Fuller takes over that number 2 cornerback spot halfway through the season. I've heard he's been improving a lot so far this summer, and I loved him coming out of college. I think he's got a lot of potential, and I see him coming into a bigger role as the season goes on. So I definitely like to see those two things happen.
One thing I'd like to add to that is I think a lot of people – I think the Redskins might miss this a little bit. I won't tell them what to do, but I think Kendall Fuller is a better outside corner than he is slot. Playing slot last year was his first time ever playing in the slot position. So he still definitely has to get used to it, but I think he is an outside corner, and Breeland can play both. So I wouldn't surprise if they did swap, but I still think they're going to keep Kendall Fuller in the slot.
Just a question on you on your bold prediction sports report.
Yeah.
If we put Fuller at our outside position opposite Josh, would that include moving Breeland to the slot?
That would be the ideal scenario because, as I mentioned earlier, Breeland is one of the best slot cornerbacks in the NFL. And as Skin Scout mentioned, Kendall Fuller is a much better cornerback when he's playing on the outside. So if the Redskins defensive staff would wake up and look at the stats and play these guys where they're meant to be played, I think these guys could all have great seasons. And hopefully we see that happen.
Yeah, and last year, Kendall Fuller was kind of nursing an injury. And if you go back and watch his highlights from his freshman season at Virginia Tech, they're just amazing. And having his former cornerback coach at Virginia Tech, Torian Gray, now as his cornerback coach as the Redskins will help him out a lot.
I feel like we're just a meaner team overall with the coach hirings, like Minuski, Jim Tomsula, with Swearinger. I feel like he's going to bring an attitude to the team that we haven't had in a little while. Since I think like it's just a mean like loyalty, like our right player, like Sean Taylor-esque. Like I'm not sure about skill-wise, but just like mentality. I feel like this team is going places in terms of like the overall mentality that's going on here with everyone. So, yeah, future's bright for the team.
Got to agree with that. I'd love to see it happen. So that wraps up episode 2 of the DC Sports Report podcast. I hope you've all enjoyed listening, whether it's live or later on after the recording's done. We hope you stay tuning in for the rest of this first season of the DC Sports Report. We're working on getting it on iTunes to make it easier for all our fans to listen to our podcast. We'll see you next time in episode 3. Thanks for listening, guys.